Hello, my name is Indy. Welcome back. Today we are going to be reacting to 21 Pilots lore. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so today we're going to be reacting to this video called Everything You Need to Know Before Clancy by Casey Lovett, is I believe how to pronounce their name. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm so sorry. So today we're going to be reacting to specifically Blurryface, and then we'll react to each section in later videos because the video is 2 hours long. So such a good song.
I guess this isn't really relevant for the story.
I also
kind of just real world.
I love that they sat here and they were like, let's do a look for each video.
And that's just so unfathomable to me, to think about the fact that they were that big that long ago and they're still doing this.
Yeah, I think it's wild because Blurryface is about the time that I got into them, and some people are gonna come at me for this, but listen, it is what it is, okay? But I heard Stressed Out on Musically and I was like, this song's really good, and then I started listening to their entire discography. So yeah, they have been doing this for a while. They have, and I have never looked into the lore before, despite being a fan since. So here we are.
This album has a character called Blurryface who you kind of get to meet throughout the album, and he represents mental illness, specifically doubt and insecurity.
I am pretty familiar with that idea of Blurryface being like the representation of like the mental health and all that stuff. I love when artists, especially in music videos, use that type of symbolism and stuff like that. I think that's what's also like kind of really brought me in. I didn't realize that they were going to be lore building, and this was something to pay attention to, but I understood that, so we're on the same page right now.
In the story up until this point, which obviously was not much because this is kind of where the story starts. But then as we go along, we'll be able to tie in.
I have seen some people look into and theorize that the story started even before Blurryface, like with like Vessel, or like even all the way back to Regional at Best, like, and self-titled. But I do feel like this is where they started taking it a little bit more seriously, and at least like the fans started taking it more seriously, especially like when you're introducing like a full-on character such as Blurryface. Like it just, you know?
Throughout this entire album is the idea of fighting an other, but that other representing mental illness and doubt and anxiety and all of these bad feelings that people are facing. Pretty much all of these songs reference some struggle, some internal struggle going on.
We were going through it. Oh my god. It's so funny looking back to like listening to all of these so intently and so often and like really diving into those lyrics, and like I knew the lyrics then too, but like just really thinking about it, I'm like, damn, we as a whole, like all of us were just going through it. Like,
Plainboy talks about how the band is battling with trying to be creative and following what they want to do, but
I've always loved that lyric. I'm in constant confrontation with what I want and what is popping in the industry. Like, I absolutely adore that, especially as like a creator myself. Like, I feel like any person in the artistic industry in any form or shape like understands that struggle of like, what do I want to do versus what is gonna do well, what do other people want. So it hits.
He sings, my creativity is only free when I'm playing shows.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that line. Which honestly, that line makes their shows even more special because it feels like you're almost getting this raw like view of them. Like you're just getting the true genuine side of them when you watch them live, which I didn't see them live until this last Skilled and Icy tour. That was the first time I ever saw them live, hopefully not the last, but it was definitely an amazing experience, 1000%.
But an interesting line from that is, gnawing on the bishops, claw our way up the system, which could be potentially the start of something.
Yeah, I do know a little bit about like the whole bishop stuff because I've watched a few music videos. I wonder how their mind works. I wonder if they kind of just made this album with like a very vague like kind of story thing, and then they decided, hey, there's like elements in this that we can turn into a story. It always intrigues me what order things happened in. Like, did they go into this knowing, hey, we're gonna be working on this for however many years, like what is it, almost 10 years, we're gonna be working on this thing, building up this story, and like this is what's happening? Or did they like just make this and go, hey, we can make a story out of this, and like took it that way? Like that's where I'm like, the thought that gets put into these are like insane.
I think it's more just hearing that word and then looking back and being able to turn it into something rather than planning it that far back, because there are some people that will argue that this story has been going on since 2009, and I do think that would be cool.
Okay, so we addressed that, so yeah, I don't know.
But I don't think that's what happened. In Message Man, Tyler sings, these lyrics aren't for everyone, only few understand.
Message, I know I keep pausing it, but Message Man is probably one of my favorite songs, like, ever from 21 Pilots. And, like, this song also kind of addresses the idea of, like, creatively, what are we showing? What do people want to see? Because it's like, this song will never be on the radio. We know it's not gonna, like, be that radio-friendly, everybody's bopping to it song, but it's like, the people who get it, get it.
That song also touches on his feelings of how music can act as an escape.
Which is also why I love that song. I've known that I wanted to be a musician since I was like a child for that exact reason of music feels like the second universal language to me. Like, you know how they say like math is a universal language, whatever. I feel like music is that second universal language because even if it's in a different language, not the language you speak or whatever, you can still convey so much and you can take away so much just from the energy of it. There's just so much in it that can spread such like a huge message for people. It's literally Message Man, but like that can spread such like a huge message for people, like letting people know that they're not alone, like all this kind of stuff. And that's just probably what I love the most about it and why I've always wanted to like, that's what I'm gonna do, you know what I mean? Like I just
A lot of the story came from their success and then seeing how can they grow from this idea. So in the beginning, this is kind of all that it was, but there are some things that are worth mentioning because you can maybe see how they've grown.
See, okay, that makes sense to me then, because you don't know if you're gonna like blow up from a thing or not, so it makes sense to kind of do it in that reverse order where you make something and then you realize, okay, we can build on this. I'm sure there's a bunch of like theories and stuff about that as well.
So stuff like a car or a torch. These are symbols that show up throughout all of their music.
I remember this being, because freaking Souls is a lot more knowledgeable. Shout out to Souls if you guys don't know who he is. Happy Dirty Souls. Great streamer. Also does a little bit of YouTube here and there. But they know a lot more about this lore than I do. So when they were like, this is like a constant thing that they're bringing up, and I was like, mind blown. I was like, what do you mean? Like, it makes sense when you actually look at it, but you're like, I've never thought to even look that deep into something like that.
And then at the end of that album, Goner, he says, I've got two faces, Blurry's the one I'm not. I need your help to take him out.
I feel like this is the song that really stood out to me as like character development, if that makes sense. I truly thought that there was gonna be lore, story, all that stuff as it was getting developed and like everybody was making the like theories, but I never expected it to be carried across every single song on every like subsequent album. In my head, I thought it was gonna be one of those things where the music videos would kind of like have a lore and a story and like that'd be it, but literally the lores in the music. I'm surprised I never put that together, honestly, because I am a very big lyric person, so.
Less than a month later, the boys were back on the road with the Emotional Roadshow tour. This tour was 123 shows and went until June 25th, 2017, which means almost 2 years of back-to-back touring, which is just so overwhelming.
That is insane. I was definitely a casual listener during this period of time, so I wasn't really super all over going to shows and stuff. That is insane. Touring on the road for that long is like unfathomable to me. Like, that's wild.
Also in the middle of this, on June 21st, 2016, they released Heathens for the Suicide Squad movie.
That's so wild. The timeline just isn't timelining in my head. I forgot there was such a gap between Blurryface and anything else that they made. Because I remember, like, Heathens coming out, like, listening to Blurryface for the first time, like, that whole album, versus remembering this music video, this song coming out because of the movie or whatever. Those feel like such two different times in my memory. Like, I feel like so much happened between those, like, 2 years or whatever? Like, I feel like so much happened that they feel like two foreign times, which is, like, so wild. I wonder if, I'm pretty sure they're about to say it because I think I cut them off, but I wonder if there is a correlation with like the story and Heathens, or if it was truly just for like the movie or whatever, you know?
This video specifically is where the actual story begins, like the actual visuals for the story. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that it inspired everything that came next. There's lots of theories. It's not really consistent. It's just a thing that's there sometimes.
I think that's so cool though. I love the idea of a fan base being able to theorize and not necessarily have to be right about it, but just being able to have that freedom to theorize, I think is really, really cool.
I think the visuals are cool, I think the foreshadowing is cool, but more importantly is the way Tyler viewed that song.
We kind of got shoved into the mainstream, and I felt like I always wanted to explain to the mainstream audience, like, about our fans and who we really are.
That's really sweet, actually. That is so sweet to have like a whole song dedicated to just saying, here's my fans, here's my community that I've built, to explain to those who might be new or who might not know who they are or like know very little about them. That's really sweet.
You know, we're powerful, and these kids have something to say, and they're worth listening to.
That's so
Pressure,
sweet.
felt overwhelmed.
I feel like Heathens is also a really good introduction to what's to come, whether it was on purpose or not. Like, I don't know what the timeline is for when they started working on Trench and all that stuff, but when we're talking musically, right, Blurryface is very... You can like put it in a very specific genre, a very specific pattern. So you got like the piano or like some of them with the ukulele and obviously the drums and stuff like that. Like it's a very raw sounding album with melancholy like emotions versus you transition into Trench, which has so much more of a modernness to it. Just like with like the synths and like the beats and stuff that are there are a lot more electro-y, if that like makes sense. So I feel like almost Heathens is a nice middle ground point, musically speaking, for how their old stuff sounds versus transitioning to how their new stuff starts to sound, which I think is really cool, actually. That's such a fun photo to pause on. I'm gonna back it up a little bit so I'm not staring at that. But that music video had to have been so much fun to film. Like, just logistically speaking, like that had to have been so much fun to film.
We don't know it yet, but this video is the start of everything. On February 12th, 2017, the boys won a Grammy for Best Pop Duo. Yes, this is the one that they took their pants off for. 3 days later,
I don't remember that.
Of the first Sleepers chapter.
I don't remember
these
that.
Were a set of vlogs that showed the end of the Emotional Roadshow tour. They would have acoustic versions of some of the songs off of the album playing, and then under that would just be little cute clips of them practicing or hanging out or performing or whatever it is.
I want to go back and watch those. I don't think I've ever watched those. Oh my god, I'm gonna get so many people calling me a fake fan. I promise I'm not. I'm a fan of the music. I just never was that deep into the lore. I want to go back and watch that stuff now, though.
At the end of the 5th chapter, when the video is done, there is a less than second long clip of an eye closing.
I kind of wish I was like into the lore more and into like those little things more when I was like first a fan, because like even again, shout out to Souls, even like listening to him talk about it and like all this stuff that happened that was like such like a huge deal for like the community, like I wish I was more in it at the time.
If you know, right? Sleepers
And I don't.
episode 5 ends with a very fast visual of an eye closing. And this is the last thing that we see from the band for a while.
So, okay. That's actually really interesting. It makes a lot of sense, though, as to why they would... The next chapter is called Hiatus. It would make a lot of sense as to why they went on a hiatus, which also lines up with my memory of not hearing from them from a while. But it's so interesting to almost know going into it that you're like, we're going to be taking a long break. But it also makes sense after being on tour for so long. I can't even imagine how overwhelmed they probably felt being able to do that, having the fan base and the popularity to do something like that. That had to have just been like a lot. So I'm not surprised that they went on a bit of a hiatus there. But unfortunately, that is the end of the Blurryface chapter. So I will not see you guys till next time, leaving y'all on a cliffhanger. If you guys are impatient and you haven't seen their video, I'll link it below, obviously. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time with the hiatus chapter and more lore. Peace out, y'all.